Hello, it's Andrine, a Jewish American priestess, and I'm bringing you a reading today using the Sovereign Oracle cards. We're going to do 2 cards, and you get to choose which one draws you in today, and then we'll do Hebrunes to clarify the message for today. And this morning, where I am, the birds are singing. And I think we're listening to messages from the ancestors today. So let's see what messages come. This one really wants to come out. This one. And let's see what other. What other message wants to come out? That one. Okay, so we're going to have 2 cards. And I'll put the timestamps below so that you can find them easily. If you'd like to listen to both, you're welcome to. The first one is opportunity. And the second is hunger. I'm also getting a hit to pull out a Nordic rune to go with each of these as well. Hold one moment. All right, I'm going to take out a Nordic rune for each of these as well. Not sure why that's important, but here it is. The first one is Uruz. I'll show it to you. It looks like this, and it represents the wild ox. And the second is Eiwaz, and it represents the yew tree. All right, so take a moment to discern which of these oracle cards and Nordic runes is calling to you today with a message from your ancestors. And I'll put the timestamps down below, and I will see you in your reading. Welcome, card number 1, for those of you who chose the first card, Opportunity. Let's read this together. It says, don't rely on kismet. Go where the opportunities can find you. It's time to show up and say yes. Make yourself ready for the good you are drawing near. Opportunity. Okay, I'm going to set that up to the right corner here. We also have the Nordic rune Uruz, which comes from the word aurochs, the wild ox or the wild bison, and it means strength. It's about brute strength and vitality, good health, power, and healing. So it's like your basic inner power and strength being called in with this opportunity here. And we'll set those off to the side and see how they play in to our reading today. So we're going to do a 6 Hebrew spread today, 7 probably, with 1 in the center. And we'll start off by laying down the first 3, And then we'll read those and lay down the second three, and then a final Hebrew in the center. So at the top of the reading we have the letter Resh. In the lower right we have the letter Mem. And in the lower left we have the Ein Sof. So when we do the 6 Hebrew Star of David spread, we start at the top, and the top letter represents that which is coming down from the divine, coming down from the heavens, or from, in this case, maybe it is directly from the ancestors. We start with the letter Resh. The letter Resh is the letter that means head. It's the first letter of the word Rosh, as in Rosh Hashanah, beginning of the year, Rosh Chodesh, the beginning of the month, and Breshit, meaning in the beginning. So it's a head or a beginning of a thing. So there's something that is starting, something new that is coming down. It is the binary transformation of seed and barrenness. In the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, which speaks about the letters being used to create the universe, each of the double letters has a binary transformation. And for Resh, it is seed and barrenness. And it's a continuum over which we fall somewhere. Where are we on that continuum between seed and barrenness? Interesting, coming down from the ancestors, that we have this letter to start out. Because, of course, our ancestors are the ones who planted the seed that allowed us to be here today. The letter Resh is associated with the intellect, because it is the head in the body. And it is a bowed head. You can see it's bent over. And because of that affiliation, it speaks to having some humility. It's the first letter of the word Rosh also, which means a poor person or a poor one. So there is this idea of humility in the face of something new, maybe in the face of the vastness of our relationship with those who came before us. It's affiliated with the planet Mercury in the sky. And Mercury, as many of us know, has to do with communication. So perhaps we're getting a new communication here from the ancestors, something about a new beginning, an opportunity that's being presented to us right now. In my understanding of the Hebrews, I affiliate the letter Resh with the matriarch Rachel. And Rachel is the beloved of Yaakov, who became Yisrael, the one who wrestles with the divine. She is a complicated character in that she was beloved of Yaakov and his desired one, although she was swapped for her sister in his first attempt to marry her. And so there was some deception right off the bat. She also, when they left her father's house, her father, whose name was Laban, which is the same word as the light of the moon, Lebanah. I think of Rachel as being one of the daughters of the moon, and I love that in terms of our connections with nature, connections with heavenly bodies. So Rachel, who is the daughter of the moon, is somebody who, when they left their father's house, took his idols with them, his household idols, and then when he chased after them and said, "Who took my idols?" she sat on them and claimed that she was having her moon time, her time of the month, and so she could not move to be searched. And so she got away with the idols. And I'm not sure what the purpose of that was, whether she was taking the household gods with her to bring to her new home, or she was clearing out her father's house. At any rate, she is a person who took matters into her own hands, possibly set up some sort of deception in order to get what she needed. And so this complicated idea, but she was barren for many, many years, and some say that that was because of her deceit or because of her attachment to those idols. I'm not sure that's something I agree with, but she had many years of barrenness. And then she finally gave birth to Joseph, the one who brought them down to Egypt, and Benjamin, in which she died in childbirth. So the Resh is a complicated letter. It is a new beginning, but it's also this challenging letter of poorness or humility. I affiliate it with the Tower card in Tarot, where there's been a sudden change that has caused some destruction, but lays the foundation for a new beginning. And that's what's coming down from above, is this letter Resh with the new beginning. In the lower right-hand corner, we have the letter Mem, and this position in the reading is that which is known about our situation. The letter Mem is the mother letter of water. It speaks to transformation, because water is a transformative element. It is one of the creation elements, along with fire and air. And you can see the Mem looks like a womb, a uterus, and the amniotic fluid within is that watery substance out of which we are all born. Mem also is the first letter of the word mikvah, about cleansing, which is one of the rituals that we may partake in order to begin something new. Water is said to be representative of Torah as well. Torah meaning learning or teaching the lessons, the truth. And we have Mem as this watery substance that both cleanses and nourishes and slakes our thirst. Mem is the number 40 in Gematria, and so it speaks to the 40 weeks of gestation in the human body, as well as the wandering, the 40 years in the wilderness, and the 40 days of rain during the story of Noah. So what is known in our situation is that there is transformation, that there is cleansing that's happening. Perhaps as we set out on our journey toward this opportunity, we need to make ourselves ready for the good that we're drawing near. And to that, maybe it's time to take some water, take some time to get into water, cleanse ourselves, or to nourish ourselves with water, remain hydrated during this warm season that is coming up in our part of the world as we head into summer this coming week. So what we know about our situation is Mem, that there's water, that perhaps there's something gestating here. A new beginning is coming in, but there's a time of gestation that we have to face before that newness, that beginning starts. And what is unknown about our situation is the Ein Sof, and I love this. The Ein Sof being the blank, meaning that without end, something infinite, some unending or void is here. The Tohu Vavohu, the primordial chaos. That idea of timelessness and boundlessness, the time before time. And that understanding that everything that is and was and will be comes back to oneness. So although we can't see that, this is in the position of what is unknown, The unknown is unknown, and that is the reality of the situation, that despite the fact that we may not see what we cannot see, it's time to show up and say yes to this opportunity with strength, whatever it is. Let's see if we can get some more information about that with 3 more letters. At the bottom we have the letter He. In the upper left we have the letter Nun. And in the upper right, we have the letter Gimel. I love this reading. Okay, so the very bottom position in this reading is the position of what is the basic root cause of our current situation. And we have the letter He, and the letter He is about presence. It is the number 5 in Gematria. So it speaks to the 5 fingers in the hand, the 5 books of Moses, and the 5 levels of soul. And remaining present with this idea of showing up, the word Hineni begins with the letter He. Hineni, which means here I am. And it is the answer that we give to the divine when we are called toward an opportunity, when we are called into service and the divine calls our name. We answer, Hineni, here I am. He is also affiliated with the sense of sight in the Sefer Yetzirah. And to that end, I would say that our root cause of our situation is remaining present and being able to see our way forward, being able to see our way into the opportunity that is coming in. The letter He is affiliated with the constellation Aries, which is the head of the year. The month of Nisan is the first month of the year in the spring. So again, it's showing up as a new beginning. We've got the Rocha at the top with the head, and the He at the bottom with the month of Nisan, the head of the year. The calendar year. There are several New Years in Hebrew. Nisan is the month where Passover happens, and it is the spring. So it's the first month, although Rosh Hashanah happens later in the year. There are many, like as I said, many New Years in the Hebrew calendar. But I see Nisan as being the new month, Aries being the first constellation in the astrological zodiac. And we have an affiliation with the tribe of Judah. The Judah, which is spelled Yud He Vav Dalet He, has the divine name in it. The divine name Yud He Vav He has 2 He's in it. So this idea of presence is right there in the divine name. And this being able to see one's way forward is the root of our situation. What is going to help us to ground ourselves is remaining present and showing up and answering yes to the opportunity presenting itself to us right now. In the upper left corner, that position in this reading corresponds to what is our challenge in our situation. And we have the letter Nun. And the letter Nun is the first letter of the word Ne'aman, which means humility, being humble. And so we have this challenge about how do we maintain our humility through this situation with this opportunity. We have humility already in the Resh with a bent head at the top, but we may be running into a challenge with holding on to that humility as we move toward this opportunity. The letter Nun corresponds to the stomach in the body. So gut instinct. Maybe we will find ourselves having some problems with our belly and that gut instinct. The letter Nun corresponds to the Hermit card in my reading of the tarot as it corresponds to the Hebrunes. The Hermit, who is the one who spends time in meditation on their own in order to find their vision, find their enlightenment, and then show the way toward others. And this may be a challenge for us. It may be something that we are wrestling with, this idea of humility. Interestingly, the stomach or the belly in the body is also represented by the letter Mem. So those two are in opposition to each other. We know we have to spend some time in our body, in the center of ourselves, and yet we're challenged with the humility of it. Nun is also the foundation of locomotion. And locomotion, I see it as a slow, progressive movement forward, like a locomotive train that starts out slow and steady and then picks up steam as it goes along. And so, with this being in the position of challenges, I think of it as maybe having the challenge of getting started. It may be difficult to pick up that momentum and get that locomotion going. So I would say that there may be some difficulty getting started with whatever this new opportunity is here. And our ancestors are saying, go where the opportunities can find you. Show up and say yes. Get ready for this new opportunity coming in. Find your strength with the wild ox there to find your way forward. And our advice in our situation is the upper right corner, and beautifully that is the letter Gimel. And the letter Gimel is the letter that is a camel or a foot. It's about moving forward. It says go. It's about walking ahead. And it is the binary transformation of peace and evil. Peace meaning peace, the word in Hebrew is shalom. And you've probably heard that word, and yet it means more than peace. It doesn't mean just absence of war. It means wholeness, coming together into fullness. So finding the wholeness of the situation and stepping forward. Gimel is affiliated with rushing toward justice. And it is affiliated with the planet Jupiter in the sky. The planet Jupiter is the largest planet in our solar system, and its word in Hebrew is tzedek, which means justice. So there's something big. There's something that is about righteousness, and we are to walk toward it. Gimel is the number 3 in Gematria, and so it speaks to the 3 elements of fire, water, and air. And that binary transformation of peace and evil, or sometimes I think of it as wholeness and brokenness. Where are we on that transformation right now? Gimel is the first letter of the word Gan, which means garden. So I think about it in terms of the Garden of Eden, that we have this remembrance of being in the garden. Some part of us remembers being in this wholeness state and being given the choice to choose life. And choosing instead, as we do as humans, to know which is good and which is evil. That story, that basic mythic story of choosing the tree of knowledge over the tree of life, such a human idea. We want to know things, and we'd rather know things than choose eternal life. We'd rather be informed. So since we have made that choice to be able to discern between that which is whole and that which is broken, that which is peace and that which is evil, let's walk forward toward the opportunity that's being presented for us right now. I see Gimel as representing the patriarch Yaakov, Jacob. He is one who ran from his brother Esau and sojourned very far in the land in order to find his beloved Rachel and also her sister Leah and the other wives Bilhah and Zilpah, and became the patriarch of the people who wrestle with the divine. So this letter Gimel is giving us the message: it's time to move forward. It's time to step up and do what we need to do to grasp this opportunity to begin a new thing. And maybe you already know what that is. Maybe when you hear the word opportunity, you know what opportunity is presenting itself for you. And maybe you don't. Maybe you need a little hint. So we're going to pull out one more letter for the center and see if we can get any more information about this opportunity that's coming to us, that we are needing our strength, the strength of our ancestors, to grasp. Let's take a look. And we have the letter Vav. The letter Vav is the letter that means literally and. It's about connection. You can see it looks like a tall standing person, again with a slightly bowed head, with that humility again. Again, more humility here. We've got humility 3 times in this reading so far. And it speaks to reaching up toward the divine, reaching up toward heaven, standing very tall, and yet having a bowed head. I love that the letter Vav is a connecting letter. It's said to be a peg or a hook, maybe a tent peg, something that tethers us to the earth, while at the same time allowing us to stand tall. It's also said to be these hooks that would hold together the curtains around the Holy of Holies in the temple, in the Mishkan, these veils, these connecting pieces. And these were sometimes made out of very precious metals, silver and gold, because they were so important. Although they were small, they're still the connecting pieces are the things that hold everything together. And Vav is the number 6. And so it speaks to the 6 directions, the 6 points of the star, north, south, east, west, up and down. It is the center of the divine name, the Yud He Vav He. So it connects the 2 He's in the divine name, presence with presence. And it corresponds to the gallbladder in the body, this very important organ, which provides us with digestive ability to take what we've taken into ourselves and process it appropriately. Vav corresponds to the Lover's card in tarot, in my readings of these connections, because it's about union. It's about bringing 2 things together, 2 or more things together, I would say. So our opportunity has to do with connection. We have some opportunity coming up that we are asked to step forward into right now. Our ancestors are encouraging us to start a new beginning, to get ready, be in this position of gestation with the mem, cleanse ourselves perhaps, to prepare. And although we don't know what we don't know, if we can remain present in our situation, in the face of the divine, in answer to the call of the divine, and though we may have trouble with humility, maybe we're going to have some challenges around that, it's still important to step forward and find the connection with strength, with the Uruz, with the wild ox here. So take the opportunity. As I said, don't rely on kismet. Go where the opportunities can find you. Show up and say yes. And make yourself ready for the good you are drawing near. Seems like a clear message to me. I hope it's clear for you. I hope you enjoyed this reading and it's been useful for your journey. And I will look forward to seeing you here next time. Shavua Tov. Hello, card number 2. For those of you who chose the card Hunger, let's go ahead and read. It says, examine complacency and recommit to your passions. Take this opportunity to stretch yourself and find sustenance. New gusto and gifts await within the challenge at hand. Hunger. Interesting. And we have the Nordic rune Eiwaz. Now, Eiwaz is said to represent the yew tree, and to that end, it represents stability and patience, perseverance, endurance, personal power, strength, and initiation. The yew tree is a slow-growing but flourishing tree. So hunger and stability and patience, endurance with this. So maybe we are having some hunger, or maybe we're about to come into some hunger. We need to endure and have patience through this period of time. I'm going to set these up to the right here. And then we're going to pull out some Hebrunes, and we're going to do a 6-pointed star, the Star of David, the Shield of David spread. We're going to start out with doing 3, and then we'll read those, and then we'll do the other 3, and read those, and one more probably at the end. Okay, coming down from the top, we have the letter Kuf. In the lower right corner, we have the letter Tet. And in the lower left corner, the letter Gimel. All right, let's see what these ancestors are having to say to us today with regards to hunger. So coming down from the top, this point is what is coming down from above. And I see it as coming down from the divine, or in this case, perhaps coming down from our ancestors themselves. And we have the letter Kuf. The letter Kuf begins the word Kadosh, which means sacred or holy. But it also begins the word Kof, which means monkey. So we have this paradox between that which is sacred and that which is very primal and silly, perhaps even. It is also the first letter of the word klipa, which means shells or shards. And there's a story that the divine, when creating the universe, contracted themselves into a small space and tried to contain the light within vessels. And those vessels shattered, and all that light spread out into the universe. So our job as humans is to find those sparks of light. But the shards also went out, and the shards are klipa, those pieces that maybe cause discomfort in the world. So we have the shells or shards and the sacredness and the monkey, all within the letter Kuf. So the message coming down from our ancestors is perhaps there is sacredness and holiness and monkey business in the world, and we have to reconcile those things. Kuf is the letter that is the foundation of sleep. In the Sefer Yetzirah, each of the letters is affiliated with a foundation or a transformation of some sort, and Kuf is about sleep. And so to that end, I think about Kuf being that liminal space between sacredness and the maybe the mundane or that silliness that comes about from being a monkey, from being a primate, the way we are as humans, and that sleep is a place where we can reconcile those two. We can look at our dreams or find our rest between those two places. It's the number 100 in Gematria, so it has this sort of magical quality of being the number 1 times 10 times 10. So 10 is the letter that is the first letter of the divine name, the Yud, and here we have 10 times 10. So this ultimate manifestation of oneness on some level. It's also the first letter of the word Kaddish, which means it's about sacredness, but it's the prayer for the dead that we say. So maybe we're having a calling from our ancestors to say Kaddish for them. There's a whole practice about saying the Kaddish within Hebrew Jewish tradition in order to elevate the ancestors. And we have the word hunger here and endurance, and maybe our ancestors are hungry for that. Maybe they would like us to say Kaddish for them. It just occurred to me. Kadosh, which is, the word that is often translated as holy, is really about designation for service. The difference between something that is kadosh and that which is kol, the opposite, the sacred and the profane, is that one thing has been designated for service. The objects can be the same, but if it's been designated for service, it takes on this quality of sacredness and holiness. So how can we become more sacred? How can we elevate our practices toward the effort of being more designated for service to the divine? How can we find the hunger to do that? The number 100 is significant in that Avraham, the patriarch, was 100 years old when Yitzhak, his son, was born. So there's an ancestor, 2 ancestors right there. And that 100 years is this marker of being quite elderly and yet still somehow being able to become an ancestor. We all have the potential to become a brilliant ancestor, whether we have children of our own or not. Ancestors come in many, many forms. And we have this idea of the 10 times 10, maybe the 10 utterances of the divine and the 10 sephirot, the emanations of the divine, multiplied together bring us to sacredness. And I see Kuf as corresponding to the magician in tarot, someone who has resources and will and intention, making that designation for service toward divinity. So our message coming down from above has to do with designating ourselves for service, making things sacred, maybe saying Kaddish. Maybe that's the message, coming together and becoming a good ancestor for those in the future. In the lower right corner, we have the letter Tet, and I find this amusing because in this position in the other reading, we had the letter Mem. Both of those letters represent a womb. Tet is a vessel, a cup, some sort of container that contains goodness within it. It's the first letter of the word Tov, meaning good. And it is said to be representative of a womb. It is the number 9, which represents the 9 months of gestation in the human body. And it's affiliated with the sense of taste. So something containing goodness and tasting well, I guess, tasting good. We have hunger here, so we're going to get a taste of something. We're hungry and we need to taste something in order to feel satisfied. Tet is affiliated with the tribe of Simeon. Simeon, which means hearing and listening. Maybe cupping our ear to hear what is being told to us from the ancestors in this case. But it does have to do with gestation. And this position in the reading is that which we know. There's something gestating. We need to take time to sit with it, whatever it is that is gestating right now. Find some renewal here and listen so that we can hear appropriately what is the message that's coming to us from this hunger card. Something is awaiting us within the challenge at hand, it says on the card. What is unseen right now in our reading is the lower left position. This is the position of what is unseen, and we have the letter Gimel. The letter Gimel, which represents a camel or a foot, something walking forward, some forward movement. And so in this position of what is unseen, maybe what we don't see is what's moving forward. Maybe we're just feeling stuck in this gestation period. But some forward movement is happening, whether we see it or not. And that forward movement is toward justice. The letter Gimel rules over the planet Jupiter in the sky, and the planet Jupiter has a Hebrew name Tzedek, which means justice. And this forward movement of running toward justice is represented by the Gimel. It is the binary transformation of peace and evil, or wholeness and brokenness. So we're not seeing the forward movement, but it is happening under the surface. I see the Gimel as corresponding to the chariot in tarot. So some forward movement is happening whether we see it or not. And we can trust that that is going on under the surface as we're being shown right now in this reading. That movement toward sacredness and this gestation period that we're sitting in right now is propelling us forward toward justice. And we can rest in that. That beneath the surface there is a transformation from brokenness to wholeness. So let's pull out 3 more Hebrunes to fill in these last 3 points. At the bottom we have the letter Hey. Upper left corner is the letter Vav. And the upper right corner is the letter Yud. Okay. So the letter Hey, interestingly, same letter fell in the same spot in the other reading. It's about presence. It's the first letter of the word Hineni, meaning here I am. And it is the answer that one gives the divine when one's name is called to service. we say, Hineni, here I am, present and ready for whatever is next. And we're being called toward sacredness. We're being called toward holiness with the kuf. So it's time for us to show up and say, Hineni, here I am. And this position is the root cause of our situation, or the way to ground ourselves in the situation. I love that it's got two roots going down. It is two letters of the divine name, the Yud He Vav He. Presence showing up twice in the name of the divine, the name which means becoming. We have to be present in order to become. And it is the sense of sight. In the Sefer Yetzirah, the book of creation, He is affiliated with the sense of sight. So we can see our way forward. We can see the direction to go as we ground ourselves in presence. It's affiliated with the month of Nisan and the constellation Aries, which is the first month of the Hebrew calendar. So a new beginning. Again, as we ground ourselves here in this new beginning toward sacredness. He also corresponds to the liver in the body. And the word liver in Hebrew, keved, is the same root as the word kavod, meaning honor and glory. It's got a heaviness to it. It says that the liver is the heaviest organ in the body. And that idea of honor and glory is also full of gravitas. It's affiliated with the tribe of Judah, which is where the name Jew comes from. The name Judah, which is spelled Yud He Vav Dalet He. The divine name Yud He Vav He with a Dalet in the middle of it. So a doorway, Dalet meaning doorway, right in the middle of the name of the divine. How do we find a doorway into the divine? And how does the divine find a doorway into us? He is also affiliated in my practice with the hanged man in tarot. So it's about patience and surrender and finding a new perspective. So as we ground ourselves in this time of remaining present in order to maybe satisfy that hunger that we've got coming in from our ancestors, it's important to sit and to say, here I am, so that we can see more clearly what's the next step. In the upper left corner, the position that represents our challenges or possibly our fears in the situation, we have the letter Vav. And the letter Vav is literally the word and in Hebrew. It is the connecting letter. It's said to be a tall, standing person with a slightly bowed head. So somebody standing tall but with a little humility. And maybe that's the challenge right now, is how do we both stand tall and have humility in our situation? How do we connect? Maybe we're afraid of connecting with the ancestors. Maybe we're afraid of connecting with others. Maybe we're having a challenge of knowing how to do that. But there are tools that are available. For instance, the Kaddish is one tool that we might use to connect. Vav is connected to the sense of hearing. So going back to that idea of how do we hear, how do we listen appropriately so that we can connect. Maybe we don't want to hear, but we are compelled to hear. We are being asked to sit in gestation and listen, right? Being asked to show up and remain present. So find a way to connect, find a way to rise above our fears right now. Stand tall. connect two things. Join ourselves with the divine. Join ourselves with the ancestors within divinity. It is the center letter of the divine name, the Yud He Vav He. So it is this connecting piece. We may have presence, but we need to connect our presence with the presence of others in order to complete that divine name. It is affiliated with the gallbladder in the body, which is this, someone's got a lot of gall, and maybe they've got some bile that is coming up, and that can be challenging. Those are negative connotations, but they're so important in the body in order to digest that which we've taken in. We need to be able to use gall and bile in order to digest and filter what needs to be excreted and that which is used for nourishment. So finding our way through connection, finding our way through digestion. The letter Vav is the number 6, so all 6 directions, 6 points of the star, north, south, east, west, up and down, all the directions. And maybe we're just having trouble connecting all the pieces right now, and we're having some fear around that, and that is okay. That is normal. Well, what's our advice? In order to address that, we have in the upper right corner the position which is our advice in the situation, and it's the letter Yud. The letter Yud, which is the first letter of the divine name. The Yud He Vav He. So we have all the letters here. The Yud He Vav He on the 3 points that we just laid down. Becoming. Yud is the one letter that exists in all the other letters. It's the start. It's the seed. It's the building block of all of the letters, all of creation. The atom that creates all matter. Yud is the first letter of the word Yad, which means hand. And to that it speaks to artisanship and handiwork and creation, creativity. It's like a little sperm, that seed that's planted that creates a whole human. A seed that is planted that creates a plant which is then in turn full of seeds. It's that one point out of which all explodes like the Big Bang to create an entire universe. And since we're speaking of ancestors here, it's that which was planted for us to exist. So when we're having concerns or fears around connection, remember that we're only here because the ancestors did what they needed to do to survive so that we could be here. Yud is the foundation of sexuality and procreation. So is that the advice? Find ways to connect with others despite our fears. Plant a seed somewhere. It's the number 10 in Gematria, so it speaks to all things 10, the 10 Sephirot, which is the divine emanations coming out of heaven. You may have seen it in the Kabbalah and the tree of life, all the different parts of the body coming together. It is affiliated with the tribe of Gad, which means luck. Gad is sometimes said to be a Semitic god of luck. In the Talmud, there are many stories about setting a place in your house for Gad to rest when he arrives, so that you can invite luck into your home. And I affiliate the letter Yud with the Fool in tarot because it is a beginning, a seed, this open mind, this first drop into the primordial material. It is the thing that must be planted in order for any growth to happen. It's the thing that needs to be planted in order for any food to be grown and ingested. And so with the word hunger here, we're talking about finding sustenance, and we have to plant a seed in order to have food, to have anything to nourish ourselves. So that is our advice here, is to plant a seed, start a new thing, start with just one thing, and then multiply it times 10. I'm not sure what that seed is. Maybe you know. Maybe you already know what it is that you need to plant. That connection, that gestation. Let's pull out one more Hebrew to see if we can get any insight into that which we are planting in order to connect. Lovely. We have the letter Lamed. And so the letter Lamed is the first letter of the word Lev, which means heart. And you can see that it looks a little bit like a sprout. So we've had a seed that's been planted in the ground, it's rooted down into the earth, and it's reaching up toward the sun. Love is that connection between ourselves and the divine, between the heavens and the earth, the same way the Vav is, but it's got this additional heart attached to it. And it's about teaching and learning as well. So we're supposed to start something that has to do with learning something new and teaching that to others, which is one of the best ways to learn, is by teaching. It is the foundation of action in the Sefer Yetzirah. So take action, learn and teach, but connect with your heart, connect with Lev, and reach up with aspiration toward divinity. It's the intestines in the body, and I love that Lev looks a little bit like intestines as well. It looks like a digestive tract. It's about taking in information, discerning what is valuable, and releasing the rest. Digesting and absorbing food in terms of hunger, and also information. Taking in information from our world, from our studies, and determining what's worth keeping and what should we just let go. I see Lamed as corresponding to the star card in tarot because it's about aspiration, because it's about hope and optimism, boundlessness. Again, reaching up to the divine with our heart for connection. And I find that beautiful. I find it really lovely that we're ending with heart here. We start with hunger. The message from our ancestors is there's some kind of hunger that's happening for us and for them perhaps, that we are to examine our complacency and recommit to passion. Take this opportunity to stretch ourselves and find sustenance, that new gusto, taste, and gifts await within the challenges at hand. And we have the yew tree here, also the Eiwaz, and it is this slow-growing tree that we need to plant a seed in order to get that tree to grow, and wait with gestation, with the tet, wait through our gestation period, and although we may not look like anything is growing, something is happening under the surface. We are stepping forward toward justice under the cover of the unknown. We need to remain present and endure during this period of time. And even if it's a challenge to connect, even if it's a challenge right now to connect with humility, that we're being asked to plant a seed toward sacredness, toward connection with the divine, toward connection with our ancestors, to perhaps say the Kaddish, if that is calling to you as an option, and reach up with heart in order to digest, as we take in sustenance in our hunger, to digest what is valuable and what to just let go. I think this is a beautiful reading, and I appreciate you for watching it. I hope it's been useful for you. And I look forward to seeing you here next time. Shavua Tov.